All right, so when we have composition of functions, there are two notations that you can use. All right, and they're at the top of your paper. You have two notations that look like this. One has a lot of parentheses. It's read g of f of x. Okay. And the other one has a little circle. The little circle means composition. It doesn't mean multiplication. It looks, I don't know, it looks kind of weird. Have any of you ever seen that little circle symbol used only as like a degree, right? Well, it means composition. And composition in math is actually a fifth operation, right? You have add, subtract, multiply, divide, and then composition. You just haven't known what composition is until now. All right, so again, even the one on the right, it looks a little funky, but it's read g of f of x. So I'm going to rewrite this a little bit bigger for you to see. When you see something like g of f of x, if I write it like that, do you see how the f of x is kind of like the input for the function of g? When I wrote it a little bit smaller, this f of x is inside the parentheses for the function of g. So that's what we're going to end up doing. We're going to be taking the stuff for the function of f and putting it into a second function. So it takes at least two functions to do this process of composition. All right, so let's just jump right into an example. It'll make a little bit of sense. Now today, when we have a number, all of our questions are going to have a number input. You should have a number as your output. Next week, we're going to deal with what if this had an x here? What happens then? All right, then it gets a little bit more complicated. But for now, we're going to look at this problem. We're given two functions, f of x and g of x. And they say find f of g of 2. Okay, that's how you say it. Now, what I like to look at is I want to start, I want the highlighter. I like to start with the stuff, I call it on the right, the letter that is farthest to the right, which is g. Right? G of 2 is inside the parentheses for f. So that's going to be your first job, is to evaluate g of 2. All right, so let's do that. Let's go right with this function of g. G of 2 here. And just like we did yesterday and just like you did on your quiz, you are going to take that 2 and put it where for the function? Put it in for x. All right, so you'll have 2 squared minus 4. Well, 2 squared minus 4, what do you get as your output? 0. Right? That is what g of 2 is. Now, you're going to take that g of 2. That 0 is equal to what's highlighted up here, g of 2. Where do you think I put that 0 now? I found g of 2. Remember, I was finding f of g of 2. Well, I just found that g of 2 equals 0. So I'm going to put the 0 into the function of f. Okay, so we need to find f of 0. So you take the output from the first function and make it the input for the second function. So f of 0 will give me 0 plus 7, which gives me 7. 7 is your final answer. Okay. Now sometimes if you look at my keys on Canvas for this unit, I will put arrows. I always suggest, if at least at the beginning, if this is confusing for you, you start on the right with the G, and you draw an arrow to the F. The stuff from G is going into the function of F. So that's what we're going to kind of be doing over and over here today. All right, let's try the next one. Example 2, we have 3 functions, F, G, and H. So the first one looks pretty similar to the last problem. I'm going to start with g of negative 2. That's the function on the inside, or the letter on the right. So let's look at g here. G is 9x minus 1. So let's evaluate g of negative 2. So that'll give me 9 times negative 2 minus 1. What do you get there? Negative 19. Good. All right, now, where does that negative 19 go now? I started at g. I'm going to move to the function of f. So now you're going to put negative 19 into the function of f. So f this time you just have to be careful here with the squared. Yesterday, a couple of us had that mistake. When I square a negative, I have to put it in parentheses when I place it into my calculator. Otherwise, you're going to get a negative number. Well, hi, Nate. Can't forget about you. All right, what is negative 19 squared? I don't have that one memorized. Negative 19 squared plus 5. What do you get? 366. So negative 19 squared, 361, plus 5 is 366. Not too bad so far? No? All right, what about b, though? That function notation looks a little bit weird. Has a little circle. It's done the same way. h of g of negative 3. You actually start with finding g of negative 3 first. You do the letter on the right. So let's evaluate g of negative 3 here. Of 9 times negative 3 minus 1. And what do you get as your answer for that? Negative 28. Okay, now, where does that negative 28, what function do I now put it into? H. So I need to find h of negative 28. All right, well, I'm going to just use h that's up here. Negative 2 times negative 28 gives me what value? 56. And that is your final answer. So it's like extended function notation for today. All right, let's do one more on the front here. Let's jump down and let's try D. Now D says f of g of h of 2. So this time, you're going to have 3 parts to it. You need to start on the far right. You're going to start with h of 2. So let's evaluate h of 2 here. Should be pretty easy. I'll have negative 2 times 2, which gives me what output? Negative 4. Okay. So I take that output, negative 4. And what function do I now put it into? G. All right, so your next step is to find g of negative 4. All right, now I'm using this g function here. That's 9 times negative 4 minus 1. Negative 37, that's right. Okay, now you have one more step. You have one more letter in this composition. Where do I put that negative 37? What function? F. Into F. There you go. That's some enthusiasm for me. F of negative 37. All right. Be careful again with your negative being squared here. We're going to have negative 37 squared plus 5. 1,374. Do you guys agree with him? Sure. Yes? Are you blindly agreeing with him, or do you actually agree? Just follow behind him, huh? All right, good. Does this whole front page make sense to you? All right. Now, I know it seems like, okay, she said this was getting harder. It'll be different on Tuesday, but this is like the first day. If we can get the number part, then next week when we do functions, that'll be a little bit easier. So flip your paper over. We got a little bit longer here. Now we're going to do it with graphs. All right? We have 2 graphs. Now, if it's hard to see here, we wrote the letters, functions underneath. The one on the left is f of x. The graph on the right is g of x. So we're going to do the same composition this time. Instead of functions with numbers, we're going to use graphs. Okay? So I'll just pick a couple here. Let's do A, then we'll jump to C. So when I look at A, I have g of f of 2. Which part do I have to evaluate first? F of 2. All right, so let's find f of 2. You're going to use the function of f here. What is the output when you're at 2? 3. Okay, so f of 2 is 3. Now, where does that 3 go? Into g. So now we're going to find g of 3. G of 3, so g is the other graph now, and the output is 3. Okay. I know. Now what have we got to C? Part C over here, G of 1. Right, so I start with the G of 1, this guy on the right. When I go to the graph of G, what output do you get? 3, right? G of 1 is 3. Now what function do I put that 3 into now? I put it back into G, the same one. So now I'm going to find G of 3. I think we just did that one. G of 3 gives me an output of 3 again. So that's your final answer. All right. Let's do one more, and then I'll say that it's fair to be done with this. Let's look at F, part F down here. I just want to make sure that we've got this slightly different looking notation down. What do I evaluate first in F? F of 0. I do the right-hand part first. So I'm going to evaluate F of 0, which is the left-hand graph over here. What is the output at F of 0? 2. Okay. Now, where do I put that 2 into? What function? F again. All right, so now F of 2 is what output? 3. Okay. Lots of 3s. All right, are we solid on that? Not too hard? Okay. So here's what I'm going to have you do.